In the vast corridors of classified history, there were whispers about Project Ithaca, a name that never made it into the official records, a story buried beneath concrete, blood, and silence. And it began in 1987 when a group of scientists working under the United States Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA, stumbled upon a strange signal emanating from beyond the heliopause, a pulse that was not natural, repeating in patterns too precise for cosmic radiation, too deliberate for mere chance. And the message embedded in that frequency was a set of coordinates leading to a barren sector of space near Kepler 62F, and from that moment, the race to decode and replicate the energy began, creating an experimental program called Project Ithaca, which combined physics, neurology, and extraterrestrial technology salvaged from old crash retrievals that were never admitted publicly. A program so secretive that even the president received only redacted fragments, while in the underground base beneath Greenland's ice sheets, a facility with walls so thick that no signal could escape, a group of hand-picked individuals were gathered against their will, test subjects who had been abducted from different corners of the world, none of them aware why they had been chosen, their only common thread being strange experiences with unexplained lights in the sky or recurring dreams of a humming frequency. And among them was Evelyn Carter, a 29-year-old astrophysicist from London, who had disappeared from her apartment without a trace, only to wake up strapped into a chair made of shimmering metal that seemed both alien and organic, her body restrained but her mind still sharp, and around her were 5 others, a pilot from Moscow, a soldier from Brazil, a nurse from Canada, a hacker from Japan, and a young boy from rural Pakistan no older than 13. Each connected to a device that pulsed with blue light that seemed to read their thoughts, extracting memories, fears, and emotions as if they were data points in an experiment too vast for human ethics. And then the room itself shifted, revealing that they were not in any underground base but aboard a ship, its walls translucent, revealing glimpses of stars that did not belong to any known map. And in the center of that chamber floated a crystalline structure, humming at the exact same frequency first detected decades ago. A living machine that fed on consciousness. And Evelyn realized with cold horror that Project Ithaca was not about humans experimenting on aliens, but the other way around, a grand harvesting mechanism in which humans were cattle, each abduction just another attempt to refine their method of siphoning human emotions as energy, for the ship itself powered on terror, grief, and pain, the emotions of the subjects feeding the crystalline engine, making it glow brighter with every scream. And the more they resisted, the stronger it grew, until Evelyn, whose training in astrophysics allowed her to recognize patterns even in chaos, began to notice that the frequency could be disrupted if thoughts were synchronized, if instead of fear, the group projected something else, calm, defiance, unity, and she began to whisper to the others, telling them to focus on a single image of Earth, the oceans, the forests, the laughter of loved ones. And though it seemed impossible to fight back against such an advanced intelligence, the crystal hesitated, its hum faltering as if the fuel it consumed had suddenly turned sour, and in that moment Evelyn understood that Ithaca was not just a name but a symbol, a journey home. For these creatures had named their project after humanity's oldest story of return, mocking the human desire to go back after suffering, yet ironically exposing their weakness, for they needed despair but could not process hope. And as the group resisted together, the ship's walls flickered, revealing glimpses of other chambers, where countless others were trapped in similar experiments, each one feeding the vast network of crystalline reactors powering what might be an entire fleet. And Evelyn realized they were only one cell in a galactic farm, but she also knew that if even one cell resisted strongly enough, it could send a shockwave through the system, like pulling one brick from a Jenga tower. And she screamed for everyone to hold the image of Earth in their minds, to cling to it like oxygen, and the crystal cracked, light bursting outward in shards that tore through the chamber, unraveling the walls into streams of data. And in the chaos Evelyn felt herself falling, pulled not by gravity but by memory, crashing back into her apartment in London as if no time had passed, though the sky outside her window shimmered unnaturally, stars rearranging in patterns that did not belong to human astronomy, and her phone displayed the date, September 11th, 2025, nearly 4 decades after her abduction, her body unchanged but her mind carrying The scars of a lifetime in captivity, and the news channels spoke of sudden global blackouts, strange signals, and mass disappearances, all pointing to the same source, Kepler, 62F, and Evelyn knew that Project Ithaca was not over, that she had been released as a message, a warning, or perhaps bait, because inside her head the frequency still hummed, waiting, growing louder with each passing night. And sometimes when she looked in the mirror, the reflection blinked half a second too late, as if something else was still watching, still feeding, still waiting for humanity to break. Evelyn Carter sat in her London apartment, her body frozen in time, but her mind fractured between realities, unable to shake the feeling that the ship was still with her, lurking beneath her skin, and every night the hum grew stronger, vibrating inside her skull like an insect's wings. Until one evening, she noticed a flicker on her television screen where static formed into the crystalline pattern she had seen aboard the alien vessel, a message not in words but in pulses, urging her to come, calling her back, and though she wanted to run, she also knew that hiding was impossible, for across the world thousands of people were experiencing the same phenomenon. Children waking from nightmares with identical drawings of the same glowing crystal, fishermen in Norway disappearing under auroras that burned red, astronauts aboard the International Space Station reporting shadows drifting between stars. And in Brazil, the soldier she once saw in captivity reappeared in his hometown with no memory of the last 40 years. Only the same humming resonance in his mind, and Evelyn realized they had not been chosen at random but selected as nodes, carriers of the signal, each one a transmitter meant to spread the frequency, like a virus across human consciousness, and governments panicked as the pattern appeared in weather radars, in radio static, even in the ocean currents. And conspiracy theorists screamed that Ithaca was no longer a project but a full-scale invasion disguised as data. And while the world spiraled, Evelyn tried to resist by documenting everything in her journals, but her writings shifted into symbols she did not understand, geometric shapes that aligned perfectly with constellations, maps leading once again to Kepler, 62F, as though her own hand had become a conduit, and she wondered if resistance itself was just another form of control, that the aliens wanted her to believe she was fighting while actually guiding her toward their true objective, and her nightmares deepened, showing not just one crystalline reactor, but entire cities of them, towers rising from alien soil, each powered by billions of human emotions harvested across centuries, and she began to see glimpses of others, the hacker from Japan who appeared in her dreams muttering strings of code, the nurse from Canada who screamed for her children, the boy from Pakistan who stood silent with glowing eyes as if already consumed, and Evelyn questioned whether they had truly escaped or if they were all still strapped inside those alien chairs, living inside simulations designed to test human reactions to hopelessness, each return to Earth just another layer of captivity, and the possibility broke her spirit until one morning she found herself bleeding from the nose, the blood not red but shimmering faintly blue under sunlight, pulsing with microscopic crystals, living fragments of the alien machine replicating inside her bloodstream, and she realized Project Ithaca was no longer confined to outer space. It was rewriting her biology, embedding the technology inside her veins, and when she sought medical help, doctors recoiled, their instruments failing to register her pulse, her blood pressure, even her fingerprints which began to shift like static, and she fled before they could report her, hiding in abandoned train tunnels beneath London where the signal grew louder, clearer, instructing her to assemble the others, to finish what was started, and reluctantly, she traveled across continents guided by the hum in her skull, meeting the soldier in the Amazon where entire villages had vanished, the hacker in Tokyo where neon lights flickered with alien glyphs, the nurse in Toronto haunted by shadows and reflections, until finally they gathered in Istanbul, halfway between worlds, and there they found the boy, no longer a child but something else entirely. His body still small but his eyes bottomless voids that reflected stars not seen from Earth, and when he spoke his voice carried the hum itself, saying only, "We are ready," and Evelyn knew then that they were not survivors, but chosen seeds planted on Earth to awaken the next phase, a network of human hosts who would transform into conduits for the crystalline architecture to manifest on Earth, and though every instinct screamed at her to resist, another part of her longed to surrender, for the hum had become intoxicating, a lullaby promising unity, release, and immortality, and as the boy extended his hand, the horizon behind him shimmered, Istanbul's skyline twisting into fractal shapes, the Bosporus waters rising unnaturally into a spiral toward the sky, and from that spiral descended a massive crystalline structure, identical to the one she had destroyed decades earlier, but infinitely larger, and Evelyn realized the experiment had succeeded. Humanity had been conditioned across generations to accept the signal, to birth it willingly, and now Earth itself was becoming part of the Ithaca network, its oceans, forests, and cities feeding into the great crystalline engine, and she screamed, torn between joining the others and fighting back, knowing that perhaps both choices were part of the same design, and as the crystal descended, her reflection in the water smiled back at her half a second too late, whispering, "Welcome home."